Good morning, morning. Yes, we are here in Corfmullen this morning, which is only a stone's throw away from Wimborne. But it's lovely to be here and projected into your homes this morning. We're going to be chatting about one of my favourite underlying topics of the Bible, which we've just seen in a lot of the fantastic pictures that people sent in about Noah and the train that's been created for John and the creativity that's been put into that. So this morning we're going to be looking at God's creativity. Just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Jacob, as Andy said, and day to day I run a design agency. This allows me to flex my creativity pretty much every day by designing materials for companies to help them sort of share stories with their customers. But I'm also massively obsessed with the natural world and everything around us. Secretly, I'd love to be a nature photographer, traveling with the Planet Earth cruise or something like that, going around. But unfortunately, that doesn't overly suit the family lifestyle of which I have here. But very happy being creative in my day-to-day. So the creativity of God. This is a very strong theme that runs behind the whole text of the Bible. There are images of God creating like an artist or a craftsman. So today I thought we could dive into the power of his creativity and its ability to shape each and every one of us. So to begin with, we have the first story of the Bible being very creatively read to us by Alex and Beth. Over to you guys. We're just going to bring that up for you guys to watch. They've been putting together a whole show for us this week. I think with puppets and lighting and everything. So clearly,
in the beginning, God made the heavens and the earth, and while the earth was still unformed, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good. Then God separated the light from the darkness, and called the light day, and the darkness night. And there was an evening and a morning, making the first day. And God said, "Let there be a sky, and let it divide the waters that are below from the waters that are above the sky." And it was done. And God called the sky the heavens, and there was evening and a morning, making the second day. And God said, "Let the waters under the heavens be brought together, and let the dry land appear." And it was done. And God called the dry land earth, and the waters that were brought together seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let the plants and trees grow from the earth." And it was done. And plants and trees grew from the earth, each plant bring its own seed, and each tree its own kind of fruit. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and a morning, making the third day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the heavens to separate the night from the day. Let them be signs, and mark the seasons, the days, and the years. Let them be lights in the heavens to light the earth." And it was done. So God made two great lights, the sun and the moon, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser to rule the night. God made the stars and placed them in the heavens to throw light upon the earth. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and a morning, making the fourth day. And God said, "Let the waters bring forth many living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth and in the sky." And God made large sea monsters and all kinds of living creatures, with which the waters abound, and all kinds of birds. And God saw that it was all good. He blessed them, saying, "Increase and fill the waters and in the seas. Let the birds increase on the earth." And there was an evening and a morning, making the fifth day. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth all kinds of living creatures, cattle and creeping things and wild beasts." And it was done. So God made all the different kinds of wild beasts and the cattle and everything that crawls upon the ground. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let us make man like ourselves, Let him rule over the fish of the sea and birds of the sky, the cattle, the wild beasts, all the living things that crawl upon the ground. And God made man like himself, and like God he made him. He made them male and female. And God blessed them and said to them, have children, increase, live all over the earth and conquer it. Rule over the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, and over every living thing that crawls upon the ground. And God said, see, to you I give you every plant which grows on all the earth, and every tree which bears fruit, with its own kind of seed. It shall be food for you. And to every wild beast, and to every bird of the sky, and to everything that crawls on the earth and is alive, I give you every green herb for food. And it was done. And when God saw everything that he had made, he saw that it was very good. And there was evening and a morning, making the sixth day. And the heavens and the earth were finished, and all that was in them. And on the seventh day, when God finished the work which he had done, he rested from all his work. And God blessed the seventh day, and he made it holy. For in it he rested from all work which he had done.
Oh, brilliant. I knew that Alex and Beth were going to do a creative show and tell of their story there, but I didn't realise how brilliant that would be. This is one of the most well-known parts of the Bible, the opening to the entire 66 books. I mean, personally, it's one of my favourites as well. Whenever we're out exploring nature in Dorset or around Essex or Cornwall or anywhere with natural beauty, it's this passage that I particularly come back to, the majesty of God's creation. And just thinking of his creation of the birds in the sky and the waves in the ocean and the trees in the woods and the different shades of moss upon rocks and the sounds of water in the stream, the smell of a light rainy drizzle as it hits the grass, the feel of sand between your toes. I mean, honestly, the list just goes on and on. Just being in his magnificent creation is just awe-inspiring. But what I want us to do is to put this ability of God's creativity into a bit of perspective. I want you to try something where you are. So it can be easy to create or imagine, right? It's easy enough to say, think of a picture of a flower or draw a flower, as it were. So what do? You draw a flower. It could be a daffodil or a daisy or a poppy or an agapanthus or a pansy or a petunia or a foxglove or one of the other millions of species of flowers. Some drawings will be better than others, but inevitably they will all resemble a flower of some sort, because we can all picture a flower, right? Now, try and picture something that doesn't exist. Just take 2 seconds where you are. Try and create something in your mind that doesn't exist. This can be something that kids do really well when they're drawing. They can be drawing a picture of a monster or a new animal. They may draw something with 3 heads, 8 eyes, 18 legs, wings, all sorts, rockets on the back, I don't know. But in those pictures, it's interesting that in those pictures, as much as we're creating something that doesn't exist, we still put eyes on it, or legs, or a body, or a head, or something that we have had an experience on. So, for example, you could have thought of a flying monkey unicorn with rockets on its back, or a tree with blue leaves and a spring for a trunk that helps it bounce from place to place in the wind. Just a quick insight into my brain. But it can be easy to imagine these sorts of things and be creative. But isn't it interesting how whatever it is we imagine, we've taken part of something from something we've experienced before. We've gained experience, inspiration from something that is already in this world. Even my weird creatures were taken from nature, like a tree, or animals like monkeys and horses. Things we've seen before in this world have inspired that creation. What's almost impossible to do is to create something that hasn't been inspired by what we've seen at all. I mean, try that one. Create something in your mind's eye you haven't taken any influence from, haven't had any experience of it. Almost impossible, eh? That fact is what amazes me about God the most. He had nothing to design this world. He had nothing, no blueprint to take from to design this world. Everything you see around you comes from a place of complete imagination. Not just inspired from something seen, but created from nothing. He has created the birds and the bees and the snakes and the trees from absolutely nothing and no reference. How incredible is that? This is truly and completely God's creation. It gets even more intense when you look at the science of it. How the tiniest seed grows into the greatest of trees, or how a microscopic embryo grows into the largest animal on earth, a blue whale. Or how caterpillars have 4,000 muscles in their body, right? A caterpillar's smaller than your little finger. They have 4,000 muscles in your body, 248 of which are in their heads alone. I mean, as humans, we only have 268. How incredible is that creation? This way of looking at the world and God's creation is often massively underplayed. We can quite easily take the world around us for granted and compare God's creativity to our own. But he is on a completely different level, creating things we couldn't even fathom. It's this creation from nothing that intrigues me the most about God. His awesome power demonstrated on the first page of the Bible. However, please don't think that God only created in the beginning. It's important to remember that he is still creating today. In the natural world, the Bible describes how God is constantly active in creation. He feeds the lions, makes the wind, and causes the sun to rise. We know how these processes work, but without God's sustaining power, nothing would actually happen. But God is actively creating today in another way. He's creating through his Son, Jesus. He sent his Son to earth to teach and perform miracles that would show God's power, love, and wanting of a relationship with us. When you think about creativity in the Bible, do you think about Jesus? How do you think Jesus was created? Jesus is the Son of God and reflects his character perfectly. So we should expect to see creativity in his life. But on earth, he was a carpenter's son. And in those days, a boy learned from his father's job. So there was no reason to doubt that he learned to make things out of wood. Jesus began his ministry as a teacher when he was around 30. So by then, he must have been a fairly proficient carpenter. But we don't really hear about that creativity in the Bible. I mean, it would be funny if in Matthew 26, when Jesus sits down for the Passover with his 12 disciples, we read, "When it was evening, he reclined at the table with the 12. And as they were eating, he leant on the table and noticed it was wobbly. So he took out of his tools and his tool belt and got to work fixing it. And then he stood up and said, 'Truly I say to you.'" I mean, we don't hear about that in the Bible. He may very well have gone around fixing tables and chairs and using those skills that he had that he learned from his father. But we don't read about that in the Bible. What we do read about is how Jesus was created in another way. Jesus used an art form that has been present for people, been passion for people all over the world for thousands of years, and still to this day. He told stories. The parables and other pictures that he used to illustrate his points, beautifully creative and intensely challenging at the same time. For example, the seeds cast upon the rocks or in the weeds shall die, but those scattered on good soil will grow deep and be fruitful. God's kingdom is like yeast in bread. You can't always see it, but it changes everything. Or a respected religious leader ignores an injured man on a dangerous road, but a hated member of society, a Samaritan, goes out of his way to help him. I mean, every teacher would love to be able to give such memorable lessons, eh? Jesus' teachings were given in such a way that those listening would need to question and reflect on them to truly apply them to their own lives. By using stories, his teachings are far more memorable and offer greater depth. The creativity of his teachings allows us to dive into them and relate each one to our own lives. His stories are individual and personal, so each of us can hear from him directly. This is how God's creativity is still clear today. He sent Jesus to speak to us creatively so that he may be working in each of our lives each and every day. God's creativity is an ever ongoing process. In the natural world, he's still working to allow the sun to rise and fall. And spiritually, he's constantly being creative by speaking to each and every one of us and by his interaction with people, making new things possible for individuals and societies. A little more than 2,000 years ago, God created something new by sending his son, who through his teaching, death and resurrection brought together an eclectic group of people who were the first Christian community. Father, Son and Spirit still choose to work through the church and people to create new things. People living life to the full, learning to use freedom wisely, and tackling poverty and disease and injustice through generosity and education and technology. So where is Jesus creating? He creates in the lives of his people like you and me. He empowers and equips his church to bring about his creativity and to see lives transformed. If you're listening to this and you're a Christian, I want to encourage you to simply be in God's creation. Be inspired and thankful for this world around us, and let that fuel your desire to seek, learn and worship what he is doing in our lives today through reading the Bible and praying. And ask yourself, what has God given to me? How can I be a blessing to others? Can I serve somewhere in the church? Or can I support or get involved in the community in some way? How can God use me today? And if you're not a Christian, know that God created you specifically as you are, and the world around you to sustain you. And if you need a miracle or breakthrough in your life, he can provide it. Above all else, he loves you and wants a relationship with you. You can have that today. We're going to come to a close in a moment, and I'm going to hand back over to Becca for a final song. But I just wanted us to pray and pray together to really be thankful for what God has given to us in this world. Thank you, Father, for your incredible creation, for your sovereign power that sees the creation of the heavens and the earth, and that you created it all just to have a relationship with us. Father, we ask in this time of fear and uncertainty to bring your peace, wisdom and healing power upon the nations of this earth, and to see restoration amongst your people. Father, we just ask that you bring blessing to our week ahead, and help us revel in your incredible beauty. If you'd like to, if you've been sort of, if you'd like to discuss what we've been chatting about today in God's creativity, love for you to reach out. Be very happy to chat it through. I think the number's just going to appear on the screen. You're very welcome to text that number. That will come to myself, and I'd love to pray with you or discuss your thoughts about it. I'm going to hand us back over to Becca for a final song. But have an amazing Sunday, everyone, and a blessed week.